What if I told you this Col.Drake monument almost didn't happen? Yes! I got hidden facts about the Col.Drake monument, about Titusville almost not being the valley that changed the world. This is the Daily! Hidden facts that made Titusville, PA famous. I'm here a lot. I do a lot of videos here, but I never talk about the Drake Monument. I drive by it, I wave by it, I say something to it, but I've never done an actual video. Years ago I did. It's not on the internet no more. But this week, Col.Drake gets his due. I'm about to blow your mind about facts that exist right here that you may have not known about. Col.Drake, he wasn't even a colonel. We'll get to that part in the story. But Col.Drake, he loved the whales. Yeah, if you're a subscriber of mine, you know that little inside joke. Titusville hired him to drill the first successful oil well because he had the experience, the knowledge, and the know-how. Not. Do you know the only reason Col.Drake, not a colonel, honestly got the job to drill the first successful oil well in Titusville was? Because he was an acquaintance of an oil investor. He was a retired railroad conductor, so he got free rides on the train from New Haven to Titusville, where the oil boom started. That's why the Rock Oil Company hired Edwin L. Drake. The Pennsylvania Rock Oil Company hired Edwin L. Drake because he had perks. He was a friend, he had a free pass on the train, and he come from New Haven to Titusville free on the train. So basically, he was a bargain to say, hey, can you drill a well? No experience? Sure, I'll do it. That's like me to tell you what kind of tree you're looking at. Do it. They're all aspen, you know that.
This is an aspen. You can tell that it's an aspen tree because of the way it is.
Oh, Mr. Drake, you got a job you didn't even have no experience doing and you changed the world. You never know what can happen when you set your mind to it. Let's go through a little brief history before we get to the monument, because you need to know the history before I tell you what happened with this monument. How it almost was not was. Is. It's here, but it almost didn't happen. That's what I'm trying to say. Pennsylvania Rock Oil Company changed their name to Seneca Oil Company in 1857 to oversee this new exploratory way of getting oil out of the ground. Because beforehand, it wasn't even a thing. Salt miners would get little amounts of oil, collect it, and sell it. People burned it in lamps for light. Yeah, back in the day when it got dark, people just went to bed. That's what they did back then. But it seemed crazy in Titusville. It was all over. It was floating all over the ground. Oil Creek. Yeah, you got an oil creek. There's still oil floating on top of the water down there. It's crazy. It's the people who think out of the box that changed the world. We all know this, people. And the Rock Oil Company, aka the Seneca Oil Company, did that with the man with no experience. Like I said, the colonel wasn't a colonel. They gave him the colonel name just to boast. Yeah, the colonel part was added, just an alias, just to boast his reputation and say, this man's important. He's here to do something important. Like me. My name back in high school? Well, you know, Johnny Wallpapers. I worked for the Department of Interior. Kind of crazy to think you hired somebody with no experience to go explore this brand new crazy idea about getting more oil out of the ground instead of just this little amount with the salt mine. It's nuts. I'm going to be throwing a lot of information your way. Hopefully you can catch up. And by the way, it's a beautiful 22 degrees out. Beautiful, balmy, freezy, freeze your face off weather. Perfect day for a video in Pennsylvania. Now I need you to think about this. Oil back in the early 1800s, 1814, 1818, they were getting it in small amounts, but they weren't drilling for the stuff. But like I said, they were burning it for their lamps. You know the story if you watch my old vlog on the whale blubber. I know, it's crazy. Ooh, it's wicked today. We'll get to you, buddy, I promise. You're a major part of this story. The guy buried over here is where the Seneca Oil Company bought the land from to first drill the first successful oil well. Wow, it's wickedly cold. Mr. Watson, as you all know, Titusville was a lumber town before it was an oil town. But Mr. Watson sold Seneca Oil Co. land to put the well on for Mr. Drake to, well, see if they can find oil. Colonel Drake built this crazy looking contraption, this derrick looking thing with cable, steam power, all this crazy stuff to drill for oil. But you know what? It didn't work. But they were on the right track. They just didn't have the right idea yet. But leave it to Colonel Drake, the man with, I can't say it enough, no experience drilling anything, created this idea. And you've all seen the idea. And I don't know if you knew, Drake invented it, but when you get like a water well done in your yard, and you see the pipe go in, and they pound it down, and they put another pipe and they pound it down, and they just keep doing it in the ground. Colonel Drake invented that because they couldn't get the hole to not stay open as they're drilling. It just kept caving in, caving in. And people started calling Drake crazy. Mean, man, just mean. You never know what's gonna happen when you set your mind to something, and Drake was determined, even though the townfolk was calling him crazy. This was the point in the story where I gotta say, this is where things could have stopped. This is where Titusville just would have been a normal small town, a lumber town. It wouldn't have been known for the petroleum oil boom it is now today. But first, let me tell you something. Growing up in Titusville, you always see this picture. Yes, you see the Drake, you see Colonel Drake, and you see the dude standing right next to him. That guy. When you went to school, you always wondered, who's the dude next to Colonel Drake? You know who that dude is? This guy. That man's name was Peter Wilson. And as you could see, friend of Drake. And this man, yes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, dude, but I apologize. Rule Danforth Fletcher. He died in 1914. These two dudes resting in the Woodlawn Cemetery saved Colonel Drake because Seneca Oil Company called him up and said, stop drilling, pack it up, move it out of here because we're out of money. You can't drill anymore. But these two guys, without these two guys resting here in the cemetery, giving Colonel Drake a $500 check to keep drilling because they believed in what he was doing. But R.D. Fletcher and Peter Wilson, friend of Drake, with their $500 donation to him, he kept drilling. My mouth is frozen. Drake continued to drill 3 feet a day. August 27th, y'all know the history, 1859. What happened? Drake struck liquid gold. Yes! He was the original Jed Clampett. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Peter Wilson. He was a druggist. And now you know that famous picture. Anybody who went to school here or anybody who knows about oil history, the dude standing with Drake was this dude. He was a druggist in town, Peter Wilson. And the other guy, basically, if you walk straight across, see the big old mausoleum. He is laying right by the mausoleum, right over here. Actually, there's 3 important things here. You got Mr. Wilson, who put in money, Mr. Watson, who sold the land to the oil company for Drake to drill, and then R.D. Fletcher, right here, the other guy who gave Drake money, is resting in peace right here. These two dudes, basically, if it wasn't for them, who knows? Seriously, if you think about it, without these two dudes, what the heck would I be doing now? It wouldn't be a vlog on oil. What would Titusville be famed for? I don't know. I really don't know. But without those two dudes, Drake did not have the funds to keep drilling for oil. It was done, it was over with. They wanted to pack it up. With those guys, I'm telling you, that one person in history that can change the world. So you wanna hear something crazy? When Drake discovered oil, he never banked off of it. He just went about his merry way. And he just continued to live his life. And he became not a driller, didn't invest in oil, didn't do anything with oil. But he started the revolution of the oil boom here in Titusville. But he went about his merry way and became a justice of the peace. It's insane. He is placed here with his wife. He was born, well, I should say he died in Bethlehem, PA. They moved his body over when H.H. Rogers gave 100 grand to build this huge monument for him. And here's a pic of back in the day when it was first built. Colonel E.L. Drake, born in Greenville, New York, March 29th. Died in Bethlehem, PA, November 8th, 1880. Founder of the petroleum industry. The friend of man. Yeah, if you do not ever get a chance, well, I should say, if you do get a chance, it's so cold I can't even think straight. If you get a chance to come to Titusville, come check out the huge monument built for this guy. It's insane, but well deserved. The man with no experience, not drilling, nothing. He was a railroad conductor, retired. He just had a free pass to a train from where the company was from to where the company wanted to drill and see if they could get oil. The man invented stuff, which now, here you go. Titusville is in the record books. It's insane. Such a cool story, and I really never touch on it. I really don't. I did it a long time ago. Gee, I'm talking like 5 years ago, and it's not even on the internet anymore because it was so pixelated. And back in the day, honestly, you don't watch your stuff if you do YouTube. Back in the day, I don't watch my stuff from 5 years ago. It's horrible. Ugh. But such a beautiful homage piece to the man who changed the world. My GoPro battery is dying. Always happens when I'm in the middle of a good speech. That's awesome. In the middle of my filming, these people stop, let their dog out, and they do their circle in the cemetery here, and the dog's just making laps. I should get a dog. Oh, thermostat says thermostat. What am I, at home? What the heck? Thermometer says 22 degrees out, but it feels like 2. You know, Drake was only 61 years old when he died. And the dude who funded the memorial, he also funded Mark Twain's world tour, and he put Helen Keller through the school at the Radcliffe. It was 22 degrees out when I come out here, and now it is 19. Oh man. I've been under the weather all week. Not sick like flu or whatever, but when the weather changes from warm to cold, my body always has that like 2-3 week adjustment, and that's what's going on. Is like my body's not adjusted quite like it, you know. Must be I'm getting older, that's for sure, but it hasn't adjusted like when I was younger, I get. But now it's taking like 2 to 3 weeks to get like, okay, you got to wear a coat. It's gonna be cold outside, and I've just been feeling horrible this week. But I had to get out and do this video. I don't care if it was 2 below, I still would have done the video. Well, you know you're getting close to Christmas when Burgess Park starts setting up their lights. And the pond is frozen. Cold weather. I don't like it. Ugh. But I hope you guys all had a good Thanksgiving. I know mine went good. But this story I had to do this week. I got to thinking, man, when's the last time I did something about Col.Drake? And I'm like, man, I better do something about Col.Drake this week. I know I did something in the years past, but I don't think it was on the internet. And I went to go look, and I didn't. It's gone. It's not on the internet anymore. So I figured, hey, let's do something about Col.Drake this week. And I don't know if you knew, Yeah, I don't know if you guys knew that, but $500 measly come in between Titusville not being the valley that changed the world. It's crazy to think about. But if you look inside the stories of stuff that happened here, you can find some pretty cool facts. But yeah, $500. Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
Now why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? It's leave, you idiot. Make like a tree and leave.
So those were the days.
Those were the days, my friend.
When $500 come in between Titusville being the valley that changed the world to not being the valley that changed the world. Think about that. It's crazy. And an interesting fact, H. Rogers, the guy who funded the memorial, he was an executive of Standard Oil Co. You remember the story I did on Rockefeller, the shrewd businessman? There were some good people in the Standard Oil Company. This guy funded Helen Keller's school, Mark Twain's Last World Tour, and he funded the Drake Monument, which is crazy if you think about it. But yeah, $500 coming between Titusville being something that changed the world, or just a small town that you live in that, yeah, you could say, yeah, I live in Titusville, it's a small town, but no! We had the luxury of saying, we are the valley that changed the world. And that is a cool fact about Titusville. Yeah. See you next Monday. This is a daily.